my name's Eric. I'm a single dad, and I'm a business owner, and I'm homeless. But it's by choice because I have the ability to have a home, but I just choose not to use people. Like I have, there's a woman that I broke up with that she was wanting me to stay in her home that she was paying for. And I just couldn't stay there any longer because I knew that it was wrong. I needed to get on my own, even if it meant suffering. So I wasn't pulling my weight like I should have been, and I wasn't able to, even though I was trying to. And our relationship was deteriorating, and I just couldn't stick around. And I just came to this point where I was like, I can either go back to Louisiana and get help from my family who despises me and will make my life miserable in return for that help, or I can continue to live under this woman who is also making my life miserable, not by choice, she's just miserable herself, or I can go out and live under a tree with what few possessions I have and build something. And that's what I did. So I went under a tree in Aurora about 4 years ago, and it was winter time, so I had a coat and winters here are brutal, so a coat and a sleeping bag, and I just went, and it snowed on me lightly that night, and I had a bicycle as well. And when I woke up in the morning, I just strapped the bag on my back and a duffel bag. I rested on the frame, and I rode with it between my knees. I went to business to business asking for work. And I did that for a week before I realized that they had soup kitchens in Denver. So I was starving that entire week. I would get like water when people would be kind enough to give it to me. But I didn't know how awesome this city is for homeless people. So once I found that out, I got a meal, and my throat was in severe pain. I didn't know. I thought I was getting sick. It turns out like your saliva builds up in your tongue if you don't eat for several days, and then it comes rushing out when you eat a meal. And it was so painful. I thought I was dying. Like I was like, I've got like the worst strep throat like in the world. And I looked up, and that's what it said. It was like, yeah, if you haven't eaten in a while, then you're gonna severe. And then like I was like doing major exercise, like riding like 20 to 50 miles a day on my bike looking for work. Because I rode all the way to Brighton one day to this industry complex. It was a job for, I forget what it was, like Allison Diesel or something like that. I forget what it was, but they didn't hire me. So I wasted that trip, and I finally got hired on with a day labor place, and I was getting jobs. And it was crazy because like one of the first jobs they got me was somebody else's job, and they had him train me for his job, and I didn't know that was what happening. He is a black man too, so it made me feel so much worse. This dude trained me for like a week and a half, and then they're just like, you're fired. And then they told me like, you got his job now. And I was like, I don't like how this worked out. Like, like I'm not okay with this.
Right. When are you gonna have me train somebody?
Right. Or just how I feel now that, I got this man's job and he's black. Like, you're making this a double whammy. Like, this is not okay. And I stayed there a couple more days, and they started treating me really poorly. Like, well, didn't you learn anything? I was like, well, you had the guy that you fired train me. Like, think about this. Now, if you didn't like his work, what do you think is going to happen with my work?
The likelihood of you surpassing his skill.
Yeah, and I was exactly like him. And they were like, well, we don't get how you don't get it. I'm like, why'd you have him train me? So I quit on the spot. And I went to Coca-Cola where he went. Because he told me, he was like, come over to Coca-Cola. Man, it really was a great experience. And I worked there for several months, and then they were going to make me a manager. And I was actually living in their parking lot. So my first check I got from Coca-Cola was like $700. I took $400 of that and got an RV off Craigslist, and I parked it in their parking lot. And I was so ashamed because I'm like, I don't want them to look at me as like somebody's less than them, or tell me to leave, or fire me, even worse. And I'm so proud at this point. It's like I'm telling my family like Coca-Cola hired me, like they're gonna make me a boss. So I'm really feeling proud of myself at this point, and I'm gonna get my kids back because I'm gonna go to court and show them like I've got a great job, and Coca-Cola trusts me. You should too. In fact, honestly, I have half custody of all my kids, so I'm not really getting them back. I'm enforcing what's already in place. And the reason I can't have them is because I'm homeless. And when I go to their mothers, they're like, no, and they're illegally violating the custody order. So I need money to enforce these things and get a home so I can bring my children. Anyhow, so Christmas comes and goes, we're getting great checks, and then Coca-Cola's like, all right, we're going to make you a manager, but we're also dropping your hours to 10 hours a week because after the holiday season, we're slow. And I was like, well, how long does this last? No problem. About 3 months. I'm like, no, I quit on the spot. I was like, I'm not going to yeah, and do this. Like, y'all don't appreciate me. Like, you made me a manager, but you give me 10 hours a week. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, we don't know. I'm like, okay. Like, y'all are a multi-billion-dollar company. You can afford a paycheck for people. So,
Yeah, that's tough.
yeah. So I quit, and that's when I started realizing I have to do something on my own. So I had enough money from my last check to go buy a drone and a camera, and that's when I met you the first time, I think, or maybe not long after, like maybe a year after I because I had my drone and a camera for a long time, and I'm just trying to drum up work any way I can. I got a job with AARP. They were gonna make me their like drone pilot for
Sweet.
events.
For
Yeah.
like doing roofs or
No, to do like events. Like they were,
right on.
yeah, like they had a speedboat racing event, which I don't even know what.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds sweet.
right. And and the way I got it was I went and downloaded walking apps for history, and I was thinking I can like make one of these into a video with my drone. So the first one I found was it was called City Walks, and it was sponsored by AARP, and they were giving history of Denver, and you would just turn on your app and they would tell you where to walk, and they would tell you history of what you were passing. So every time I went by something momentous, I would launch my drone and get special footage. So I went by like the Molly Brown house and downtown Denver Cheeseman Park. They're talking about how like the homosexual community had to like fight to live over there, literally, because like every time they go to the park, like groups of white bigots would come and beat them, and so they would like learn to fight. They would start having weapons. They formed like security groups, and they fought these people off for their right to live. And I thought that was an amazing story. So I turned that into a video, and I gave it to AARP for free. And they're like, "This is so cool." And I said, "We're gonna pay you for this video." So they gave me $250, and I signed a release for it. And they're like, "We want you to come from now on." And I was so excited about that. It was just like the Coca-Cola thing, like, I'm coming up now, you know. But I screwed it up because I was also running a siding business at the same time, and it was extremely stressful. And I thought that the best way to come up was to hire people to work with me, but everybody I hired was a meth head, and they buried
siding business.
Yes, they ruined me, man. And like they would do meth on the jobs. They would be lazy. I'm doing the bulk of the work and then giving them the bulk of the money because I got
putting yourself out there.
right. And they wouldn't work hard and make these jobs go fast so we can make a lot of money. They're just milking it. And I'm just like, dude, I can't do this with y'all guys, man. Y'all got to go. And as I'm stressing over this, I forgot an AARP event that I was supposed to do. And they call me like, "Eric, where are you?" And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like 2 hours away on this job, and like, there's no way I can make it. And they never called me back again. They're like, "You screw up once, that's it," you know. So that hurt really badly. And then I ended up getting a drone job, making like $800 a day inspecting roofs after that. But my car breaks down and I can't find rides. And my first job, I miss it. And same thing, they don't call me back again. And that $800 a day would have changed my life, man. Yeah. So, yeah.
So, dude, all that resonates. Like, we've talked before, and like your upbringing, like you've been dealt a difficult card.
Yeah.
And to have you come here today, and like you're such a positive person, and you've been through all of these difficult situations, and you've been knocked down. And what I love about you, and why I'm really excited to continue to talk to you today, is like you're looking forward. You're trying to figure out what the next thing is. You've made some mistakes. Everybody does. The hard part is picking yourself back up and continuing to motivate. And like,
there's a lot of tears in there, bro.
I can't even imagine like
screaming, throwing things. I mean, giving up. I like the guy that trained me for that job is to this day is one of my only friends. The black man that trained me for that job, and he helps me. Like when I'm having a hard day, I can call him and tell him, like, "Dude, I'm about to give up, bro." And he's like, "Man, don't give up, bro." This he's like super ghetto sounding guy. Like he's so awesome, man. I love this dude. And like, so check this out. Like when I was training to get his job, he saw I was hungry, and like we'd be in the break rooms, and I would eat like a ramen noodle or something, or just like a piece of bread. And he's like, "What do you eat?" "Oh man, I'm good, man." The next day, he started bringing me barbecue, like ribs and pork chops and steak, and like a lot of it. And he's like, "Oh man, I had food just left over." I knew he was lying. He was cooking this for me to make sure I would eat, because I didn't have hardly anything. And I remember that.
It's hard not to like get emotional just hearing you talk about it, man, because it's like this person stretched out their hand and it changed your life, because now you have a friend, you have an ally. And one of the things that I teach people is you got to get support. you have to have people around you who want the best for you.
And then know what you've been through.
And
Because if somebody above you helps you, I found this out, they expect more from you than what you can give.
They
think it's common sense what they've learned, and they don't realize that they had better parents, better circumstances. See, I didn't have a good mom. Like my mom, I don't know, I told you, she beat me and molested me and ignored me whenever I was doing good. And then my father, he was there, but I only saw his back because he was always on a computer. He was a computer programmer, and he just did not want anything to do with me. And so, like, if I ever spoke in his presence, all I ever heard was shut up. That was it. So I never really learned skills on how to be a man. So like when I got to this size and age, people look at me and they just assume like that's a guy that's got his shit together. You know, he got blue eyes, got blonde hair, he's in good shape, he's tall. How could anything be wrong with your life? Right? And so when I tell them things that they don't want to believe it because I'm such a happy person, right? Like generally I'm very positive. So like, there's no way you can come out of that and be happy. And there's no way you could let your mom molest you and not do something about it. But I was a kid, right? Like I didn't know.
You didn't know any different.
Right. I'm like, I was embarrassed. Like I was embarrassed to talk about it. I was ashamed. I'm like, I felt like it was something I'm doing wrong. You know, like why would she pick me? You know, she wasn't doing it to my brother. So like that kind of, it really messed my head up and set me back to where now I'm still learning, even at 43, basic things. And it, like, it's really hard. And people are just like, yeah, right. Like it's common sense. And it's just not common sense for me. Like I have none. And like my mom actually told me constantly that people were better than me. Like she would be like, why don't you get it? You know, your cousins get it, your brother gets it, your dad gets it, the stranger on the streets get it. And she'd just say that to me every day. So then like I would start telling her, because y'all are better than me. That's why, right? And then like I didn't believe it, but then after about a few years of saying it, I started to believe it. Yeah. And then so then I went to prison not long after that, because I was like, well, if y'all are all better than me, why try, right? And like I would go to church, even like get judged, and I even got beat up in church. You know, shoot, excuse me.
Oh, you're kidding, man.
Yeah, I mean, like by a girl when I was really little, and my dad's like, well, it's just a girl. I'm like bleeding off my eye. You know, like I'm like, okay, well, it's just a girl then. So it's hard to learn in the presence of evil good things. I don't know how people do it. And like there was just common sense, you know, you just do the right thing. But like when I went to prison, that was the easiest time in my life. Literally, I was at rest. I was like in my bunk, like every night I was like, this feels so good. It's like, oh my God, nobody's screaming at me, nobody's accusing me of things. And then the people around me were actually supportive. You know, they were like, we were going to church together. We were, I got my high school diploma in prison, and I got a 3.7 GPA, and I could have got 4.0, but I didn't like economics, so it was boring. So I just skated through that class, and that's what brought my 4.0 down.
Better GPA than I had.
Right, but and like when I before I went to prison, it was like a 1, you know, because I just didn't care. I had no effort. I was like, well, if everybody's better than me, what's the point, you know? But then I get to prison, I realize life isn't what I thought it was, and that's when I come home and I'm like, let me try to do different. So, the judge ordered me away from my family when that was part of the conditions of my sentence, is that I would go live with my grandparents. But he didn't realize this. My grandparents are the one that made my mom that way. So it was more abuse when I got there, you know? So it was just mental abuse. So they were doing I heard exactly what she did to me. Like, why don't you get it? I'm like, oh, now I know where she got that.
That's where she learned it. Mm-hmm. So 2 things I want to say. One, something I don't think a lot of people realize is that person who's homeless, if you were in their shoes, you would be homeless. Like everyone is a product 100%. Of their experiences and their upbringing, and you don't get to choose it if it sucks.
I had to have a therapist teach me that a couple of years ago.
You don't get to choose that life.
The verge of suicide. I was like, why is everybody so much better than me? And only the past couple of years have I realized that everybody's not better than me. Like people tell you that nobody's better than you in school, but you don't believe it if you're being abused, right? So literally, like at 41, a therapist was like, taught me, he's like, do you realize that you did exactly what everybody else would have done in your shoes? And I was like, no. He's like, yeah, dude, like these are circumstances. This is life. You're a human. And when you're presented with choices, you have feelings that respond to those choices, and you make decisions based on those feelings. So if your feelings tell you that you're being abused, then you're going to be trying to protect yourself from that abuse and make decisions based on what you've learned. And so I was taught to lie, cheat, steal, do everything except be honest about what you did wrong. I had to meet felons to realize that my family was evil. It's like, it is crazy. Like some of the best people I met were in prison to this day. Like just genuinely caring people. Like it was a very small percentage of people that were bad, and everybody knew it, and we all shunned him. Like stay away from that guy because he's gonna cause problems.
It's gonna bring you down.
Right, and the only people he had were people like him in his group, and the rest of us like don't.
That's a great point. You're the product of the 5 closest people in your life.
Sure.
So if you're a kid and for the other 4 people in your household are abusing you, you're going to have a horrible time. If you have people who uplift you and support you and find more friends like this individual from the job that started giving you food, he's your first step and he brings you up. And I can see it in your like emotions. Like when you think about him, he really had a positive impact on your life. And the question I want to ask you is, are you going to break the cycle for your kids?
I've done my best to start that, and I'm going to continue, yes. But, you know, like 3 of them are being lied to right now that I don't want them, and because I physically can't be there. And they blocked my phone number, so I can't tell them that's not true. That when I send letters, they literally call me and say, I ripped that letter up, just so you know. Yeah. So,
well, if you could say anything to them right now, what would you tell them?
Daddy did not leave you. I love you so much. I spend my life suffering for you. And I sacrifice. I don't have weekends. And your brother sacrificed for the same dream. Brandon is 21 now, and since he's been a teenager, he's given up every weekend with me to work so that we can have a better life. And that's all we do, is we work to and hope to have our family back. We love you, and that'll never change. And I hope you forgive us for not having it together sooner. That's true.
Let's take a minute. I absolutely love that message, and I'm so thrilled to potentially be able to put this out there so that they can see it.
Thank you.
Because I can see it in you. Like you are someone who I think has all the opportunity coming their way. You are at a place, you know, not just financially, but emotionally and physically where I can see it, and I believe in you. And I think you need to hear that.
No, that helps because, like, when I was working in the oil field, one of the Mexicans that worked next to me told me, you're going to be my boss in a month. And I was like, no, I'm not. And he says, no, I promise you. He says, you're going to be my boss. And I was like, okay, whatever. And a month later, like, Eric, we want you to take over night shift. And I was like, and I had been thinking about that every night. Like, this dude, I could hear him saying that. I was like, is he right? Like, is that real? And it's something about hearing it. It makes you believe it more for somebody that's credible. And yeah, and I do believe that when I hear these things, I feel like it's almost like you've spoken into existence with me.
It's real. And the other thing I want to mention is self-talk.
Yeah.
It is so important
to
have positive self-talk, because no one in this life is ever going to talk to you more than you talk to yourself. And if you tell yourself every morning when you wake up that you're not worth anything, you will end up being not worth anything. But if you wake up and you tell yourself, you look in the mirror and you say, I'm worth it. I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to be the X, Y, and Z. I'm going to get here. And you tell yourself that every day, you're going to start believing it. In your life, you're going to be surprised at how that impacts your life.
That's what Brene Brown says. You got to talk to your inner child like a child.
Absolutely.
That you love. A child you love. I know there's a little kid in there. It's like trying to protect me from getting hurt still. And I'm constantly like keeping him in check. Okay. And I do have this one thing. I was like, all right, if I make a mistake, it instantly comes like everybody's better than me. And I hate when I say that. I'm like, no. And I check myself like, no, it's not true. It's not true. But it's just this habit for 30 years of me saying that every time I make a mistake so that people will just leave me alone and not yell at me all night. Because like many nights before school till 2 a.m, my mom would just scream at me. And I just had to sit there and listen. And then like she'd wake me up at 5 a.m. and like, well, you're not rested? You didn't sleep enough? Well, I guess not. You've been screaming at me all night. And I've been telling you, you're better than me. It's the whole night. So like I've been trained to say that. My life has been lost, man. When I came online at 2 years old. A few months later, my best friend got killed. And he was the neighbor next door. And he was like 2 or 3 also. His dad so what I was told His dad was driving the boat drunk at night, and they hit a log and flipped, and him and his mom and dad all drowned. But I've looked in the newspapers for that year, and I can't find it. But I did find a boy that drowned, and he was that age, and he was riding on a 50cc dirt bike and went down the embankment into the bayou. And I think that was him, because I don't remember his name. It's been so long ago. But then by the time they found him, he was drowned, and the bike was in the water next to him.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they shouldn't be letting a little 3-year-old ride around unattended, yes. But this is where I'm from. Like, our neighborhood, I remember this 2 years old, we had a gang of 2 and 3-year-olds that all ran like a pack, like 10 of us. No parental guidance, just a bunch of potheads getting us to do things and laugh at us. These kids, you know, like, and my first time I rode a bike, I was 3 years old. I told my mom I wanted a bike because the other kids in the neighborhood had one. And she's like, okay, you can have one, but you got to learn to ride one first. Right? I'm like,
where am I going to get a
right. So I got this. I went outside, and the potheads that made us do stupid things had a bike out there. It was a 10-speed. It's like this tall. I'm like this tall. Yeah. I'm like, can I ride that bike? They're like, hell yeah, you can. Like, go check out this kid. Man, he's about to ride this bike. Like knowing I'm going to hurt myself. I climb inside the frame. I put my head next to the frame. I grab it, and I start pedaling. And I made it the first try, and they're laughing their ass off. So I turn around, I get off the bike, I move it around, I come back down. And I'm yelling, "Mama, Mama!" And she comes out. She's like, "Fuck!"
Right.
She was like,
expect you to.
This you learned instantly.
From an early age, you have had a desire to succeed.
Yeah.
And if you take anything away from today, I want you to treat yourself with grace. I'm going to give you an example. So if you're my supervisor and I make a mistake, what might you say to me?
A lot of that will depend on how you've treated me.
Sure.
Like, if I can sense that you don't respect me, then I'm gonna instantly just go straight to like, you're my mom. Like, I'm worthless. And
yeah. Let's say an example.
This actually happened to me yesterday at the bank. I had a meltdown because I wanted the paperwork for this. I couldn't even get the app to work, so I went and got the bank statement, and then they gave me the third degree. What is it for? I'm like, it's for me. I just want it. And they're like, no, well, what's it for though? You know, like, I'm not allowed to get a bank statement. So I'm starting to get annoyed because they're not just giving it. So there's a guy that like to help me with financial. Oh, we do that for free. Like, I know you do that, but this is a podcast. I'd like to expand my presence online. You know, like I'm creating businesses. I think this could only be good. And also, if he does give me some pointers for finances, I can use that because I'm terrible with money. Like, you've seen how I spent.
Yeah, I want to talk
grand.
Yeah,
it's like, but a lot of that went to the guy I'm working for too. But I'm fully willing to admit that I spend with my heart and not my brain, and that's a problem. It's always been a problem. It leaves me broke. So, anyhow, I tell these people, I just need the statement. And they're like, well, who is this guy and all these things, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm about to just go somewhere else because I'm not a good person, obviously. Like, and y'all can see that. And they're like, what are you talking about? That's just my go-to. I'm not a good person. You're better than me. And they're just like starting to get confused like people normally do. Like, that's just like for me and my mom, not for everybody else. And they were able to calm me down. They're like, no, we think you're a good person. We just don't want you to get scammed. I was like, all right. And now I'm all embarrassed because I made a scene, But now I'm like thinking, I hope they don't take my bank account from me or
yeah, no, they were looking out for you.
Yeah, But no, I'm talking about now that I made a scene. Because like usually when I make a scene, that's it. Like, people cut me off. Like, they're like, fuck this guy, Because nobody wants to be uncomfortable. That's the meaning of life to most people is comfort.
Right.
And I've discovered that if you go outside your comfort, that's how you grow. So I hate comfort as a result. And I kind of hate people that love comfort. I don't really hate them, but I hate the idea of that is all you care about. Is just getting fat in front of a TV and just, how much can I consume? And that, it eats me alive to see people like that, knowing they could have a better life.
A lot of people that are in that are coping.
Yeah, I know.
It's just a different way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's an addiction. My client that I'm working for, his name's Barry, and he's got such a good heart, but people take advantage of him. He just dumps his money, giving it away to people, and he just sits in a chair and just shoves sugar in his face, and he's got diabetes. And I'm like, Barry, you got to change your diet, brother. Like, you cut half your foot already. Like, we got to save you, And he's like, I know. But then
he's got to decide that.
Yes.
No matter how much you tell him, it's the same thing. I want you to realize it's like, no matter how many times you tell yourself you're not worth it or whatnot, you just have to recognize you are. Recognize the mistakes and learn from them. And don't repeat them. That's all that matters.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you play sports at all?
No, I went to 13 schools in 12 years, so I never got to really be a part of sports. I would have been great had I got the chance. I got in jiu-jitsu with my son, and
Cool.
we excelled at that really quickly, but my life's not stable, that we move and our money just doesn't stay, so I can't keep up with bills, and we had to let it go. So we haven't been doing that, but we want to get back to
maybe
it.
you can circle back to it. Cool.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to touch on one point, and then I want to dive into kind of your finance portion. So the self-talk piece and treating yourself with grace. So let's say, for example, you and I, let's say we're going to go hit baseballs. I think that's a fair sports analogy. And you start pitching the ball to me, and I can't hit it. And I continue to try. We're out there for like 30 minutes. I can't hit the ball. In that scenario, would you say something upset to me, or would you potentially...
Oh, I always care about other people.
Yeah.
I don't mind if people make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's my mistakes that make me angry.
Right. So I want to help you recognize...
I know. I can talk to other people like I talk to myself like I talk to other people. Right?
Exactly. You have to.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to. And it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
But what's helped me is in the morning, start saying some nice things to yourself. It's going to feel weird because you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to say 3 nice things to yourself. But over the course of a month, over the course of 6 months, in a year, you're going to find that hopefully it will help your just the internal image about yourself, and it'll help teach you yourself how to handle grace, because you're going to make mistakes. Everyone does. It's just how you treat yourself, how you bounce back from it and learn from it. Because, I don't get that energy. I don't think you'd be mean to me. I don't think you'd tell me, you're just terrible at baseball, you should quit. You might say something like, it's going to take practice. You know what? Let's come back here again next week. Let's try it again. Focus on this.
I've always been one to try to unite things. Like, so my parents were racist, and they're horribly against black people, never to their face, always secretly. And I was always thinking, like, well, what's the problem? So we lived in the ghettos, but we were on the white side of the fence. So I would go hop the fence and see what the big deal is. Are they really going to hurt me? I was on an adventure, because I'm like, maybe they are, but I don't think they will. And sure enough, I was always invited into their homes and treated properly, fed, allowed to play with their children. And I honestly saw kinder homes than what I saw in my own home. So that's what always led me to try to be kind to others, because I know that what people say somebody is not what somebody truly is.
Wow.
And I don't know.
Do you think you can do that, though?
Yeah, I definitely can. Like, I'm working on it. I've already been working on it. Like I said, I went to a therapist a couple of years ago, because
Awesome.
I was starting to, with the meth heads ruining my business and like everything falling under with the drone company. I just felt like it wasn't worth living, because I was like, I'll never get ahead. I can't possibly win. Like, I'm just going to struggle forever. But the truth is, like, I just need a better self-talk, need a better support group. And so now that my son lives with me, that is a huge help, because I can go to him and give him a hug. I can tell him I'm having a bad day, and he can do the same with me. And he doesn't like to, but when I see him having a bad day, I make him talk. I'm like, look, let's talk this out. We're not going to let this ruminate and like focus on that. He always comes out better. He goes in, I don't want to talk about it, and then we finally talk. He's like, you can see the air just deflate out of him. He's like, much better. So I do the same. Like, I feel myself like to where I can't control my emotions, I'll immediately go get them. Like, Brandon, like, I don't feel good, man. And, like, I'll cry, I'll let it out, and then I tell him constantly that he's a great person. I love him. That he's a great man. That he does a good job working for me. He really does. He's like, anything I ask him to do on the job, he immediately goes and does it. He never complains, and he's just a good person. He doesn't judge people. He doesn't really go out and try to make friends. He's very introverted, but he's a man of honor, and he's a man of his word, and I respect that. It's like I'm so grateful I had a part in that, and I know he had to make the choice, so that makes me so much prouder that he did choose to be that way. But yeah, I love having my son here. I want to touch on one more thing, and it's like unrelated.
I love the way you talk about your son.
Yeah, and I can't wait to have my other son here, because he's like, he's like my little mini me. He looks just like me. He looks up to me. He's like, I want to be a carpenter like you, Dad. And that was one of my regrets, because when he told me that, I was like, no, we're going to start you a business, and you're going to be a business owner. And man, he looked so let down. He's like, I wanted you to be proud. And I was like, that was my moment to be like, yes, be like me,
Yeah.
So I to this day, I'm like, I got to fix that, you know. But I want him to be a business owner. I don't want him to be an employee. I want him to make a difference in the world and not make somebody else's dream real, make his own dreams real.
And I think you want him to be happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can see that. And for him, his path might be different than yours.
Sure, and I'm willing to accept that. I will support whatever he goes for. I just want him to be the best at whatever he does. Like my oldest son, when he was a little kid, he's like, I want to run a snowball stand. It's this New Orleans treat. It's a ice treat, kind of like Italian ice, but softer. And he's like, I want to do this when I grow up, Dad. And I was like, yeah, why not? You know, just be the best one. Like, be the best snowball maker in all the world, to where nobody can compete with you. That's all you got to do. And then I'll be super proud of you. You know, don't settle for anything less than the best. And now he's ready to create a snowball stand and like make a chain of them. He wants to make it major, because all the ones in New Orleans, they're mom and pop shops. There's none of them that ever expanded. So I was like, dream big then. Let's do this. Yeah. And we're going to have one in Denver. We're going to have one in Florida, and continue to grow it. Because it's one of those things, like, once you try it, you can't stop. It's delicious. It's amazing. Yeah.
Let me know when they open it in Denver.
Sure, yeah. I'll keep you in touch. We'll give you
That sounds awesome.
a lifetime pass for free.
Yeah. No, happy to pay for it.
Yeah, man.
Support the dreams. Well, I love that. Was there anything else you wanted?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to bring this up. My little brother died in Iraq in January 6, 2005. And like, I've been trying my hardest to honor him. And so we started a business and we named it after him. And like, at first that wasn't the best idea, because like a lot of things kept going wrong, and I felt like I'm dishonoring his name, you know. It hurt so much. But now I realized that it was just part of the struggle, you know, like, and it was never anything that could be changed about that. Like, when you start a business, it's hard, and it's hard. It's going to go up and down. One guy related it to raising a child. It's like, you have to raise a kid for several years before they can turn around and help you. So that's where I've been. Like,
That's a great idea.
Yeah, we're like 6-7 years into this, and it's finally starting to help us in like larger increments than just a couple $1,000s at a time. You know, this guy trusted us with $47,000, and we're investing in something big. And
So brief overview. What's the name of your business and what do you do?
Armand Contractors, LLC. We do remodels currently, but we're expanding into building tiny houses. And the dream is to create communities to get the homeless people out of the cities, and then have a life that is productive and, you know, something that they value. So they're not just like wasting away on a corner somewhere and having people look down on them that supposedly should be helping them, you know, according to their faith. So I want to make a difference, and that I want to do it with my brother's name. I think that'd be awesome if we could. And I wanted to add one more thing. The prison thing. Like, I don't think that makes me tough. And it was the same prison that Mike Tyson went to. And I love that he doesn't think that either. And like, I've seen him in interviews. He's like, I hate prison and I hate people that have been there. He's like, if you tell me you've been to prison, I don't care. He says, I don't think you're tough. He says, nothing tough about it. And he says, I'll fight you right now if you think you're hard because you've been to prison. I'll kick your ass. And I love that attitude, because I don't brag about that. Like, I'll talk about it as part of my history, but I don't think there's anything cool about it. I don't want to go back. You know, if I did go back, it would be only for the purpose of seeing my brothers that are stuck there and to show them support. You know, no other reason. So I think that's super cool that Mike Tyson does that. He's like, you know, I'm the toughest guy you'll ever meet. He probably is. And I'll tell you, there's nothing tough about that. He's right.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about it, too, is you used it as an opportunity to educate yourself.
Sure.
You come out of it not only a better person, but a smarter person, ready to kickstart your life, start a business. You've got to this point. I think you're successful. I believe in you. I think you have a great business. Excited to talk finances with you. You're on the upswing, and I'm just thrilled to be a part of your journey.
I appreciate it, man.
Yes.
I feel good about this. Thank you.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions. So if I remember right, your total debt currently, do you remember the total? Maybe about 70 grand?
Yeah. So yeah, if you throw in the child support and everything, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. How are you feeling right now on being able to make all of the payments associated with the debt?
I'm going to definitely get it, because like the amount of money that we're pursuing will easily cover that, and then have surplus.
Yeah. What is kind of the timeline that you're thinking is reasonable to pay it off?
A year.
Yeah. Sick. That's awesome.
Because
I had 2 years in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think easily, if you continue on the momentum you're headed, with ease, I think you can pay everything off in 2 years.
Yeah.
So I'm stoked you said 1 year because you probably will pay it off in a year.
I think so. Because, if we continue, because if I get this property sold, even if we sell for $75,000, that I only need $25,000 to build our house in Florida. And that's with the land included. We found a really cheap piece of land. So then we can take that, go to the bank, take a loan against it, which will be worth much more than $25,000 because of my labor I put in, and take out $30,000, $40,000 loan, build another one, and then we can have some investment money once I sell the second one. And then it really should pick up momentum from there.
Yeah, it's great. And I want to touch on that kind of at the end. I have like an outline of what I would recommend kind of to help keep you on track with those steps, so that you don't fall out of a situation where you potentially end up in like homeless again.
Yeah.
So do you have an emergency fund? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, my grandma tells me like save money,
Yeah, but that doesn't mean much. Right. Save money. Okay, cool. How much money? So emergency fund, ideally, like in a perfect world, you have 6 months living expenses set aside in an account that doesn't get accessed. So it's there if you have a situation where you're out of work.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. And in order to get to 6 months, you got to start somewhere. So my goal is typically 6 weeks. So if you can figure out or know how much you spend every month, and we're going to go through an exercise where I put together like an outline of a budget.
Okay.
And what I would want you to do is essentially every month you sit down with your son, talk through your budget, come up with your fixed expenses, your variable expenses, what you want to spend on activities like the movies. I have a couple tips on how to save some money there.
Cool.
Because I know you mentioned you like doing that, and I noticed that in your statements. And then utilizing that so you have a plan. And you sent me the budget for your home project, and boy, was that thorough. And I love to see that.
Well, that was for the guy I'm building for right now.
Yeah. And so I know you have it in you to be able to budget for yourself.
Sure.
Because what I don't think a lot of people realize is if you don't have a plan, you're not going to get to your goal. But if you have a goal and you have a plan and you can work through that budget, which we're going to go through, you're set up for success. And even if you make a mistake and you don't hit your goal that month, you got next month.
Sure.
But if you continue to plan, you're far better off than if you don't. So that's awesome. I think 1 year is an awesome target. I'm just going to write that down because I think I'll be following up with you to see how you're doing. What would becoming financially free mean to you?
It would mean family. That's all that matters to me. Because I would give up everything I've ever had and could ever have to have happiness with my children. And that includes a relationship with a woman. I felt that I would love to have that again, but if it means to not have my kids, then I'll avoid it. Now I'm proving that because I've turned aside women that I was interested in because I knew it hurt my son's relationship that we're building right now, because he hasn't had an easy life either. And that's another thing. I hate to point out my life, how hard it's been, when I know that his life has been almost equally as hard. Because the mothers I chose were broken people because I was broken. And I was trying to make that relationship with my mom happen through another woman. Prove that I can have a woman love me when she's broken, which is not possible. So I picked women that were incapable of love because they were so deeply broken. And they passed that on to their children, who are my children. Mm-hmm. And now I've got this huge mess to clean up, and I'm done with these relationships because it's just, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm picking the wrong people, and you can't go by looks, and you can't go by what somebody says. You got to put in real time with these people and see if they're really about what they say. And I don't have time for that right now because I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to get my oldest son, stable, and he's really close. He's come so far in these past few years. So I'm willing to sacrifice everything for just to see my kids happy. That's what this money means to me.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a great goal. And I think, to your point, let's pay off that debt, get out from under that, build your investment pool. I think you have some great ideas, some great investment ideas. And I think if feasibly, once that's paid off, you can hopefully free up some time to be able to focus on yourself, because you deserve happiness. You deserve to find someone.
I agree, but I give vicarious happiness to my children. I always have. When they were little, one of my greatest joys was we were going to the park today, and their mom did not like that. She's like, let them stay in the room, be quiet. Kids are meant to be seen, not heard, you know? And I was like, I don't believe that. I think that we need to bond with them. We need to bring them places. They need new experiences. We need to vacation so they expand their mind. And, you know, my youngest son, I did that when I was working, my oldest son, I was working offshore. I had a ton of money, so we would go everywhere. And then when the money fell out, that's when I had to let him go back with his mom. And the oil field doesn't care about you. They'll let you go as soon as they're doing bad. So,
Well, I'm going to give you another piece of advice. You need to prioritize yourself, at least to some degree, because no matter how much you focus on your children, if you're in a rough place, it will show through. And I can tell, like, you are very driven. Like, again, I think you're going to be very successful in whatever you end up pursuing. But if you don't at least spend some time focusing on yourself, making sure you're happy, it's going to be really tough to make your kids happy.
sure.
And even if you come out of this and you're debt-free and you got these investments, if you haven't spent at least some time in the next year focusing on yourself, making sure that you love being the person that you are,
Sure.
it's going to be a tough transition for you. So I would do that and start small. Maybe spend 20 minutes a day just like thinking about yourself, doing something that makes you happy. Do you have any hobbies?
I used to like flying my drones,
Yeah.
you know, but I mean, they're just on the shelf right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe let's start there. Maybe next week you pick one day and you go fly for 30 minutes and just take that time and write it down. Like literally write on the piece of paper, whether it's your budget planner or your calendar, time for myself. Prioritize it. Because there's only so many hours in the day that are going to be work-related productive, and you can't get burned out.
Sure. Yeah, that does happen.
Yeah, so do that.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, make sure you prioritize yourself, because
I agree.
it's one of those things that's easy to let slip, but it's probably the most important. And whatever that means to you, whether that's relationships or just time with your son outside of work, because sometimes it can be all work-related, and that's probably not fun for the long term either. So being able to balance that lifestyle is what's going to set you up for long-term success.
Okay.
Sweet. Let's look at your finances.
Okay.
So I appreciate you sending them over. I was able to do kind of a deep dive in 2 months, June and July, and there were a few things that really stood out to me.
Sure.
So I'll pull them up here just for reference. So this was the deposits, right? So this was part of the contract that you're working on right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Awesome. Pretty big balance. So you have a $50,000 job. How much of that is going to be like profit at these?
Not a lot. I got screwed on this job. So this guy, like I said, he's got diabetes and his brain isn't working well. But the worst part, he's lonely. His mama died a couple years ago. He's never had a sibling.
Sure.
He got divorced years ago. His daddy died even further back. So he's alone in this house that his mama bought in the 50s, and he's being reminded of her daily and how lonely he is. And he has a woman in his life that's taking advantage of him. She claims that she loves him, but she's only willing to talk to him over the phone, and she makes him send her money every day. And now she's coming to Denver to visit family, and she won't even stay in the house with him, but they're engaged. So far, he has funneled money from projects that I'm supposed to be doing into that man's pocket. And I'm guessing he's got about 80 to 100,000 in the past couple months out of him, while I got the 50. But the problem is that he tells me, he's like, oh, let's hold off on this project. I want to divert this money I gave you into something else. And because I'm a good person, instead of saying, no, we need to stick to the contract, I'll go ahead and divert it for you. And he's like, but I'll put the money back. He didn't, though. So I've spent probably 30 of that or more on just crap, like flat screen TV, massage chairs. Yeah, I've got like a huge list on my Amazon account that I bought with my card, things that he wanted, and then he said he would place the money for. And then I went and built a fence for him. I insulated his attic with blowing insulation. I repainted the house. I did a lot of work. On top of that, we've been a nurse for him because I said we were homeless, right? So we were sleeping in the truck. He found out we were sleeping in the truck. He's like, man, come stay in the house. Like, all right, well, I'll help you out then if that's the case. I'll stay in the house while I work there, and I'll help you. So the amount of work I help with is not worth what I got.
Right.
Like, he will literally keep me up till 1 a.m. Like, hey, man, would you help me out with the bank? Would you go cook me something? whatever. And then I'll get in the bed at like 4 a.m. Eric, 3 hours later, I'm like, dude, like I gotta sleep, man.
Yeah.
And this isn't even what we agreed on.
Right. When is this project done?
It's done already. So what I've done, so with all the stuff in the green, that total, like in that spreadsheet I sent you, that adds up to more than $47,000.
Right.
So
you've lost money right now.
I have lost. He owes me 10 grand, and I'm gonna eat it. And because I don't want to take a dying man to court. That's just not gonna in my.
I don't think you need to take him to court, but have you had a tough conversation with him?
I have many, and he's claiming he's broke now, but I know that's not true. But he's got like some weird fund with Morgan Stanley where they only release so much per year, and he's hit that cap. So whatever that is, he's got to wait till next year before they'll release more money. He's got like investments and things of that nature. So the son is like waiting though for that check because he's like wanting to get more of it. And he steals from him. Like he was in the house yesterday, literally. Like no, he's stealing physically too in front of him. Like he bought like five pairs of PlayStation 5 headphones and like controllers. He had it sitting on his entertainment center. And I tell the family, I'm like, he's hungry over here. So he bought all these headphones and stuff, and now he's out of money for food. So I'm buying his food. Like, can y'all come help? But what they did was they came over there and like, man, what are you doing buying all these headphones? I need these. And he took them and then didn't bring any food to him. So I went and got food for him. And I'm like, Barry, like, are you okay with him taking? Oh yeah, they're family. I don't mind him taking it. But you said that was yeah, it was for me. And he put his head down.
Right.
I'm like, I will stand up for you. If you just tell these people you're not okay with this, I will stand up for you. And he's like, it's all right.
He's getting taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
He's getting stolen from, and now you've been taken advantage of.
Because of these people, taken from him.
Yeah. So I think you should consider filing a small claims. I don't know if it might actually be like a larger claims court now because it's a pretty big sum of money.
Yeah. And what's worse, they called the police on me. Because I'm a felon, that's dangerous. They
I think they know they
reported a felony on me. They said that I was hurting him and stealing his money. The police show up with lights all in the front yard. I look out the window. What are the police here? Open the door and they're like, "Put your hands up." I'm like, okay. Yeah, I'm like, "What's going on?" Like, where's the old man that you're hurting or whatever? I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What are you talking about, man? Like, come inside. Like, Barry's right here." Bro. Yeah, and so they come inside. Like, "Has this man been hurting you?" And he's like, "No." And they're like, "All right, sir, like we've gotten a bad report." And then found out it was from his fiance that's taking all the money. Yeah.
Dude, are you still living there?
Today's the last day. Like
we gotta get it.
Yeah, I have a Pathfinder. The transmission computer went out, so I'm putting a new one in there, and then we're driving away. Yeah.
You gotta get out. So what I would recommend you do is write a document that states that you completed the work, that you did not, like something to the effect that implies that you finished the job as requested.
Mm-hmm. As changed and requested, yeah.
Right. And get as detailed as possible. It's going to be a pain in the ass, but you need to write down all of those purchases on Amazon, the dates of when it was requested, get all of that. It might be multiple pages, and you need to have that owner sign it because I am worried for you that this individual that came into his life is going to come after you.
Yeah, I've thought about that too. I know because like they're going to
protect yourself.
Right.
If you ended up losing the 10 grand, that's way better than potentially having some large lawsuit for the entire sum, which is ridiculous. But you just got to protect yourself. So I would highly recommend either drafting it at the public library on one of their computers or even just handwriting it and getting that individual to sign it so that you have a record proving that you completed the work.
Okay.
Because the last thing I would hate to have happen to you is.
No, you're right. Yeah.
And it sounds like she's already tried to send you to prison, which is so messed up.
I know. I thought about suing her for that,
But how much time of the day do you have?
I know.
Like, that's the thing.
But the main thing was because my brother's name is on that business. And that's like, you put his name on something he didn't do. And I take very special care to honor his name. And that's, we go above and beyond on every job because I don't want them to put a bad review on my brother's name. So like a lot of jobs we lose money because I just can't have that bad review on his name. So yeah, I've strongly considered suing her just on the principle, like, to say that my brother's name is not going to get smeared because you're greedy.
Yeah. Well, it's just they stole from you. Like you definitely have potential grounds for a case. I'm not a lawyer,
Sure.
so I can't speak to that.
And then I think about it, it's like, is it worth like redirecting this energy and focus when I could just focus into making more money on, legit. Like I do want to protect myself. I'll focus on that, but I don't know how much further I want to.
And that's what I love about you, your mentality. Like, I think you should sit down and think about it. Just like spend an hour, maybe when you're having lunch or something, and just think about what that would look like, because it's going to be tough to try to get that money. But maybe you can consult with a lawyer for free. Usually they'll do those consultations for free, and you can tell them the situation. Like maybe that would be probably the best move, and ask them how to proceed, because I would hate to have you not file it and then somehow have that impact you later, because they're stealing from you, and it breaks my heart, man.
Yeah, I mean, it is just sad, and like he knows it too, but he's afraid of him, and I'm like, dude, I'll stick up for you. He's like, but he's so lonely, he doesn't want to be alone after he gets them out of his life either, so he'd rather get used than be alone.
And what you could put in that contract that he's going to sign stating that work has been completed is a date of when he's going to pay you the supplement funds. That's what I would do. I would have it in there, because when he's going to get his check or whatever.
Yeah.
Or his payment.
Well, so just says sometime next year. Yeah.
Sure. So you could put January 1st, 2024. I expect to receive 10 grand in payment form, whatever you want to decide.
Sure.
But at least you'll have that in contract, because then down the road, if they come after you for money, you can prove that, you did the work, they didn't pay you, they actually owe you money.
Yeah, I agree.
It might mitigate the risk that they would come after you for some reason. But
I totally agree.
Yeah, so 2 things really quickly. How can we start doing jobs where you don't lose money? Because you have a kind heart, but you need to respect the fact that you're a professional businessman. You deserve to be compensated for your work.
I think the bulk of the time I do well enough. Yeah. Like I definitely should charge more, because I noticed that my competition are like charging insane prices, but I feel guilty about that, because I don't want people to get taken advantage of. And additionally, I want to be picked above the other guy that's charging too much, so I intentionally charge less so I can get the job.
Are you good at what you do?
I'm amazing at what I do. Like I always get
charged for it.
I always get compliments. Like my work history speaks for itself. I got pictures on top of pictures, and everybody's always like, "Wow, this is really good work." I got 23 years experience, so that's why.
Don't sell yourself short. That's the next piece.
I have been raising, like that's why I got a $50,000 check, but then it
snowballed out of control. And
sure.
In having that contract and sticking to it, you got to do that.
Yeah.
Because this is a situation where at first it didn't seem like a big deal, and then it snowballed.
Sure.
And that can happen, and it can happen quick. And then at the end of the month, you've just spent yourself out of the entire budget, and now you're not making any money.
Exactly.
So
we did get a septic system and 2 cars, so
and that's it. Yeah. So you didn't.
Yeah, we didn't lose out totally, but he owes me, is my point. Yeah.
Right. This was still a success, but you're learning from it, and now don't make that same mistake. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't let people take advantage of you. If it's not in the contract, then either they make a new contract and list out dates, or it doesn't happen. Because you're a genuine person, you want to help people. But you need to not be taken advantage of because of that.
And my kids vicariously.
Right. Exactly. And your helping nature is so admirable, but it potentially leads to, if you meet the wrong person, they take advantage of you.
Sure.
So don't do that, okay?
Yeah.
All right,
I agree.
Sick. And then 2, your budget-wise, you eat out a lot. Why is that?
So partly we tore out Barry's kitchen, right? So when we're homeless, we have no option but to eat out. Like sometimes we've bought cooking devices, but it gets really hard to store it. And then the food, so you got to go to the grocery store. And then when we're in the grocery store, it's like, what do you want to eat? And my son, he's tapped out. He doesn't want to eat anything other than what we can cook. Like I don't like frozen food either, honestly. So we're just let's go eat out again, and it's just the easy solution. Yeah, that's honestly the only reason. I hate it. I don't like the food. I much prefer home cooked meals. I'm a Cajun, and I know how to cook Cajun foods. Yes. And my son, all my children love my cooking. In fact, when they were little and I had them all, I was a stay-at-home dad, and that's what I did. I would cook every meal, morning, noon, and night, and they loved it. And I love it. I like to eat my own cooking. So
when can we get you back on that train?
I need a home. So yeah,
Okay.
that's like where we're trying to get to. Like, so
Yep.
we get this mountain property sold. We're gonna build a house. Like that's what we talk about all the time. Is getting to Florida because it'll be warmer and we'll have a home finally.
Mhm.
So that's
Awesome.
the dream.
I want that for you.
Yeah.
How much money do you think you spent in the month of July on fast food?
Couple thousand at least.
From what I told, so I don't know if is this your credit card statement or just your debit card?
It's just debit card. Yeah, I don't have a credit card.
Okay, yeah. It wasn't it wasn't thousands. It was $830.
Okay.
Which is a shit ton of money,
Yeah,
man.
well, I figured it was more than that.
Yeah. So it's a lot of money. And then in June it was lower. What I told us was about $500, but it's like every day.
Yeah, I mean that's our grocery bill.
Right.
So like we don't buy groceries. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I've thought a lot about ideas or ways to potentially help you there. The only thing I can think of is something that I've done in the past, which is sandwiches.
Sure.
You get sandwich meat. You get a cooler, like one of those generic Yeti coolers.
We actually have one. Yeah,
That, like,
we do that. It's
Keep
just,
it cold for a long time.
Sure.
Yeah, put some ice in there. Get lunch meats, your condiments, and bread.
We've done that for quite a while, and we just got tapped
You
out.
got tired of it. Yeah, and then it's easy to just, let's go to Wendy's, let's go to Chick-fil-A.
And like we're depressed too, so that's like I'm
Yep.
like any little thing I can see a smile on my son's face, I'll do it, even if it hurts me, and that's the problem. So I know that he'll be happier in the long run if we sacrifice every little thing, and instead of trying to like buy happiness with meals and.
Maybe fast food isn't the first place that you can start looking at budgeting, but that food sucks for you. It's just terrible.
I know,
It's
like,
going to
my
make you
health is
feel
gonna-
more depressed.
Our skin is dry.
Can you click that button?
Sure. I see it in our skin. I see it in our feelings. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to make you feel more depressed because your gut health has a huge impact on your overall health. And while my solution isn't necessarily going to be better, I want to get you out of debt as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And budgeting money for food and trying to keep yourself on track with that is going to be important. So that's one thing. ATM withdrawal fees. Do your bank charges you those?
I think if I use like an out of network ATM or something,
Dude, there was like $50 in ATM withdrawal fees.
that's crazy.
Yeah. This is just one section of it.
And that's a lot to do with the medical weed. So like, oh, I need some cash,
you'll
and,
go.
and they
Yep.
don't accept the card, and I'll
Right.
just use their ATM, and they'll
Yeah.
hit me for $4 or something crazy. And so it's like, and I'm like, as I'm doing it, like, is it worth it? And I'm like, yes, I want my son to be happy, so I'll just do this. You know?
Yeah. Well,
And he's not happy after. Like,
stop using those ATMs.
Yeah.
there.
We're just gonna stop using weed altogether.
That's a better solution.
Yeah.
But if you are going to do it, stop at your bank's ATM. You had $51,
Yeah.
bro. That's a crazy amount. One month,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
just ATM fees.
It
Like,
could be used for so many other things. A full tank of gas. So, yeah.
yeah, when you put it that way, man. So think about that. Stop using those ATMs. You had a lot of Amazon purchases, but we found out that was related to the business. Again,
Yeah.
write all that down. Make sure it's documented that all of those things went to the business and have that person sign it, because I could see them saying that you bought that for yourself
Mm-hmm.
and that you
And that's another thing I felt like this feels kind of like
It's shady.
underhanded. Like
It's
he's putting the
shady.
taxes on me now because like that's not my stuff.
It's
But like, why
super
don't we
shady.
buy this at your account?
protect yourself there.
Yeah.
I think you should try to get in front of a lawyer just to like explain your situation, because that freaked me out when you said that.
Mm-hmm.
So document all that. I'm glad that those weren't your expenses, because it was kind of crazy the amount of stuff that was on there.
Yeah. No, that was all his insane
And
things.
I'm glad to see you have an LLC set up, so you're protecting your business.
Mhm.
Do you have a business bank account?
I do. Yeah, I have two separate personal. Those are the business account transactions.
In the
That's
Excel
it.
sheet?
Yeah, no, in those statements.
This is business?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the business account. There was only like a couple pages that were out of the personal account.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's what that was.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense then. I'm
Yeah.
glad you have that set up. I was worried that this was your personal account.
No,
Perfect.
yeah, it's
Okay.
separate.
I'm glad you have that set up, because that was going to be
Yeah,
things
tax
I
ID and
suggested.
everything.
Yeah. Perfect. Now comes the fun part. I want to talk about building a budget. Have you ever done it?
Never stuck to one. Yes.
Yeah.
Like
So when's the last time you did a budget plan for yourself or your business?
Probably 12 years ago. My cousin, he even looks like you.
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
he's really good with money and things. He had a hard upbringing as well, but not like mine. And his like drove him to be extra particular about finances and planning things out. This dude like plans everything. And like, so I was trying to learn from him. We sat down and made a budget, but then, life happened. I had a crazy ex that came and like literally kicked our door in while we were sleeping and then called the police on me. And it was an insane time. And then, so
once you miss it once, you're probably never going to do it.
Yeah. Like I got away from him because I didn't want him to keep dealing with my life, my craziness. So I was just always ashamed at that point. So I never could really follow through with much. And
well, we're here today.
Just give up all the time.
Yeah, you're not that person anymore, man. You aren't.
Yeah.
I believe you can start doing this. Again, you need to write this on your calendar, whether it's the first day of the month, the middle of the month, or the last day of the month. I'd recommend the last day of the month or whatever, the weekend or whatever free time you have. Put it on your calendar.
Okay.
Like, I want you to write that down. You need to schedule time so you hold yourself accountable to do your budget.
Okay.
And I would recommend doing one for your personal life and one for your business so that both of those stay on track.
Okay.
And so I printed 6 of these off for you as kind of like a template for you to start.
Okay.
That way you got your first 6 months just prepared for you. So essentially it breaks it down into 4 buckets. You have your income, which these are all things that you're going to estimate if you don't know exactly what it's going to be. So in the example that I did here, I just put house job, it was like 50 grand, right? And then you flipped a car. Granted, these totals don't match up with yours, but this is what I want you to do is list it out.
Okay.
All of the places where you plan on making money. And for your first one, it might be a good idea to look at your previous month and do actuals. Okay. I made X amount of dollars on this job. I sold this car. I made this much money. Keep going down the list and then put the total at the bottom. And then your fixed expenses are things that don't change every month. Mm-hmm. That could be for you, it's like maybe fuel. Like you need a budget fuel because you're on the job business, all the time. And it's going to be probably an estimate because it could depend on how much. But you want to write the number that you think you can stay at.
Okay.
Rent would be one, but you don't have rent right now. Do you have a car payment?
No, I don't
Yeah,
believe
it's paid off. Sick.
Credit type thing.
Insurance.
I have, car insurance. Yeah, and business insurance as
right.
well, yes.
So like those might be fixed expenses. You could either put those here or in bills. Mm-hmm. But you're just listing out all of the things that you know you're going to spend money on. I put in here movies. I know you like to go to the movies. Have you heard about AMC's Tuesdays? Mm-mm. So on Tuesdays, they do half-price movies.
Oh, that's cool.
It's sick. You sign up for a free account on their website.
Yeah.
It's like
part
a
of the
membership.
Club, yeah.
And that's the only time I go to the movies, on Tuesdays.
Sense,
yeah. You can go see a movie, get popcorn for a total of like $30 for 2 people.
That's really
It's
cool.
sick.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of spending $15-20 on a single ticket.
Right.
So I'd recommend put that in your budget. Like you and your son need to go to a movie at least once a month. Mm-hmm. And you should budget for it so that you are held accountable to it. I don't know if you budget for clothes, like
not yet, but we just kind of like we're running low again. The dogs have destroyed them or life.
And here's the thing: if it's in your budget, you're planning for it, so you get to spend that money.
Sure.
But the key is holding yourself accountable and giving yourself grace if you do go over, but like trying to stay as close to the budget as possible. And then fun money. You need to budget money and allocate it to doing things that you enjoy. Mm-hmm. And is that something you've thought about?
Yeah, I've thought about it for sure. Yeah. It's just like the stability is not there yet. So like, I've always felt like if I had the money, I could budget everything. My grandma like save money. I'm like, well, let me get it first.
Yeah, and so just so you know, this is a game plan that gets you to where you want to be. So like on the top, what I want you to do every month is write down your goal for the month.
Okay.
An example would be, I want to pay $1,000 towards my debt, and I want to save $1,000 towards my emergency fund.
Okay.
I think you could potentially do more than that because of your income levels. Write down like a very specific goal.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
It gives you something to think about. And then whenever you are thinking about finances, remind yourself of the goal. If you're at a convenience store and you're looking at buying some candy or something, you can think, is this going to help me get to that goal? Maybe not. Maybe I don't need it.
Right.
Maybe I value my monthly goal over this immediate desire, like impulse purchases and stuff like that. I fall back on that all the time, constantly reminding myself what's more important in my life. This is why you budget for fun, so you still get to experience life. And this number can be whatever you want it to be. Just keep it reasonable. And then other expenses are going to be like variable things. And this is why I think it would be best for you to look at your previous month and work through an example and look at all of the things that you made an income, all of the places of expenses that were fixed that are going to reoccur every month. And then look at all the places you spent money that were not fixed. The fast food and stuff like that, I think you need a budget of food amount, but I would total it up and see like how much you spent the last month and figure out potentially areas where you could stick to a tighter budget.
Sure.
And you don't need to like stay rigid to these. They're really just to help outline the plan.
Just keep it in my mind that
the totals.
I'm doing this.
Yeah, exactly. And especially for the first like 6 months, this isn't going to be a perfect science, but it's getting in the habit of thinking about it.
Sure.
And then at the bottom is your totals. So you total up how much money you earned, how much money you spent. And then these two can be viewed as how much debt you paid off and how much money you've saved towards your emergency fund.
Nice. Okay.
And then this is like your goal. So along with this, you write down financial goals for the month of how much money you want to earn, how much money you ideally want to spend, and then how much of your debt you want to pay off and how much you want to save. And again, don't beat yourself up if you don't meet these goals.
Okay.
But you now have a plan of what you want to achieve that month.
Yeah.
And then you just total it up. The difference is like, okay, I did better than planned on earned income. I did a little worse on spending. I did a little better on paying off debt. I saved more money. Now we look at next month. And you can reevaluate at that point and determine maybe I need to add more funds to food. Maybe I need to fluctuate my budget. But sitting down and like just doing that evaluation is so important.
Okay.
Because it's easy to get just like lost in spending.
Yeah. Especially when you do it emotionally.
Yeah.
So it's not
exactly.
It's not a rational thing any longer.
Yeah.
It's just like I'll keep it coming. Just make me feel better.
I just need this. Yeah, I need this thing. I need food. And this might be tough. If you need to work through it on your first one, like give me a call. We can talk through it.
Thanks.
Or if you want to send me the one that you do, I'd be happy to look at it.
Sure, no, I'll definitely do that. Yeah.
But this is like a game changer.
Okay.
Absolute game changer.
All right.
And it doesn't seem like much, but putting it on your calendar, scheduling it, doing it, huge.
Okay.
So I'll give you that as like an example
Sure.
for you to keep. And then you got your first 6 months documents there. And then now comes the fun part. So here's like, I think the plan that I want you to achieve.
Okay.
Your first step, you got to get an emergency fund set up. I think 6 weeks of income initially, let's say $6,000 saved in an account that's separate from where you're spending money out of is going to be important. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of a high interest rate savings account?
I think so, but I'm not familiar with
cool.
it. Yeah.
So they're an account. It operates very much like a traditional savings account with one big exception. You cannot withdraw money on a debit card. You have to transfer it
Okay.
to your other bank account.
Sure.
But what it does is it earns a higher interest rate. For example, the one that I use earns 5% interest every month. It does get taxed, so you end up earning like between 2 and 3%, but your bank right now is paying probably 0.04% or 0.06%, so like less than 1%. So if you do have an emergency fund, this is where I'd put it.
Okay.
I would open up an account.
So it grows.
Exactly. So the bank that I use is CIT Bank. They have a platinum savings account, I think is what it's called, and it earns 5% interest. I have to keep a minimum balance of $5,000 in there. They have other tiers. So if you're going to start out with less money, maybe a few thousand, they have another tier that earns like 4.5%, something like that. But you maintain that percentage even if you go below 5,000.
Okay.
So that would be a recommendation of where you should put that money so that you're earning more interest than your current bank account. And this is only your emergency fund. Keep that in mind, because you want to have liquid funds in your current bank account that you can spend as needed.
Sure.
So this is where we're going to start building your emergency fund. Yep. And if you just Google high interest rate savings account, and then I'll give you the one. It's CIT Bank.
Okay. Yeah, I use PNC currently.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of them, so you don't have to use that one.
But no, definitely research.
Yeah, do some research. See which one kind of fits the best for you. And just know it takes a few days, like 3 to 5 days potentially, to get the money out. So that's why you only want to put the money that's an emergency fund, something that's not going to be an immediate need, in that type of account, so that when you do need it, if your bank account gets too low, you can pull from that emergency fund to pay for a broke down car or what have you. And you're going to earn higher interest on it. And then the second thing, so you're going to save up your first 6 weeks, so like $6,000. And then I think the goal after that point is to start saving and putting all your money towards debt, paying it off. So I would start putting half of the money you save every month into your emergency fund.
Okay.
And the other half into paying off debts until you get 6 months of living expenses in that emergency fund.
Okay.
And that might be, let's say, $30,000. And you'll know that when you start doing your budgets of like how much money you're starting to spend every month. And then you can just times that by 6. That's ideally what your emergency fund's going to look like.
Okay.
So that's how I would do it. I would structure it half the money you save, emergency fund, so you're staying protected, and then the other half straight to debts. And I would start with what's going to be the most impactful in your life.
Okay.
I don't know what that looks like as far as interest rates, but typically you would want to try to pay down the highest interest rate first, because it has the biggest impact on you.
Okay.
But your situation, maybe it's more like the child support has a higher impact or what have you. Like, you just look at that. But just like start pouring money into that, because I want to get you out of debt.
Yeah, because every time I get a big check too, I'm going to like put larger amounts towards these things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so like above what my plan was, because I like to knock them down faster.
And you have like $30,000 saved up, right?
No, I have nothing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like so.
All of that's going into the job,
right? So the job and my property that we have in the mountains. So I spent $8,000 installing my own septic system. My Jeep broke down, so I bought another a Pathfinder for $3,000, and then my son just got his license, so I got him a Buick for $2,000, and so that was like $5,000 towards cars, and then that's. Like, and then the food, and that was it. That was all that was left after I bought this dude all his toys. So it's like, it's a nightmare. I mean, not really, because like I'm blessed. Like, we are moving forward. Like, we got the septic. That's huge. You know, like that had to happen in order to sell that property, because nobody wants a property where you can't use a toilet. So.
Yeah. So now that when you sell that property, let's dump right. We got to get that emergency fund set up so you're not on the street again without anything, because you're one car breaking down from being in a bad situation. So like, I want to get you set up so you can sleep easy at night. Because I'll tell you, once you get that 6 months save up, or even that 6 weeks, it's a life changer, because I sleep so much better. It's awesome, man. I can't believe it. It's great. So I want to get you set up with that. Like, that's how I would structure when you get that big lump sum after you allocate for taxes, split that up. The next thing is going to be getting debt free. And I apologize for that. It's super annoying.
Just gonna give you a hell of a time of editing, right?
It's gonna be fun. Let's say, so this might take some time. This could take a year, 2 years, whatever it takes. Don't get frustrated with yourself. Everyone's journey is different. For some people, this takes 10, 15 years. I think for you, I think you can do it in 2.
Yeah.
And I think you could potentially do it in 1 with the mindset that you have.
No, like when I first started this I don't mean to interrupt you, but when I started this homeless journey, I had this illusion, like I'll just, in 1 year, I'm going to be financially independent, get my kids back. And that was like 6 years ago, man. So I've learned to be patient. Like,
give yourself some grace.
Not as fast as I hoped.
Having a plan sets you up.
Yeah. I didn't have a good plan till.
So let's do it. Let's write that plan down. And then the third thing, so this is down the road. You got your emergency fund paid off, and then now you're funneling all of it, every dollar that you can scrape. Like, I want you to sacrifice, but I want you to budget for fun, so you're not living. You want to enjoy life, but There are things you can do for free that are enjoyable.
Sure.
Think about that. And then, dude, funnel everything. Let's get this debt paid off, because you have a mindset and determination that's going to, dude, I'm so excited to talk to you in a year from now to see where you're at and like what you're doing.
All right.
And I want you to be debt free with the exception of investments and what have you.
Sure.
Because once you get to that point, then you can start having some fun. You can start doing these projects. You have great ideas, but I think you need to focus on your talents, which is clearly remodeling and building, and dude, make every effort to grow that business and pay off your debt and then build wealth. And then at that point, when you have your emergency fund, you have your debts paid off, then you can start exploring these concepts and these additional ideas, like the Wheeler concept that you talked about. Like that's when you can start having fun.
Okay.
And like really building wealth, because what I'm worried for you is you stretch yourself too thin too early.
I definitely do.
Yeah. And like, if you are clearly very talented with building, and I think that's an avenue that's created the wealth that you're starting to create, double down, focus on that.
Okay.
Because that's where I see you getting out as quick as possible.
And that's 100% the main reason why we're moving to Florida. Because what I did with my son, I said, let's go on Google and find the 10 fastest growing places in America. That's where remodeling is always booming, where it's growing fast. So.
Yeah, and they get hurricanes every year.
And then they're very filthy rich out there. Like all the retirees love to move to Florida to live it up with their money. So I'm going to go to them and be like, hey, let me make your house look better. And they'll happily let me do it. So
I love that concept, and I'm excited for you to get down there.
Sure.
So that's my advice to you. You know, you got to follow your heart and follow your own journey, because there may be an opportunity that arises that doesn't fit that genre or that narrative, but that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah. You just got to have
be willing to change with the.
Yeah. Be willing to figure out what's going on, and like be open to new people in your life and new concepts, new journeys work-wise. So that's where I would like to see you focus your time and energy. And then once you have all that debt paid off, invest it and figure out where you have the most knowledge. Seems like real estate's a great spot. Double down there, and then diversify. There's a fund that I recommend to everyone that I talk to. It's called the Vanguard Total Stock Market Equity Fund. And what it does is it diversifies your risk, because I don't know much about the stock market. I've done a lot of research.
Oh, I'm familiar with this, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it'll change as the businesses go up and down.
Exactly. So this fund is unique because it owns every company in the stock market. So your risk is diversified across every company. Okay. And throughout history, the total market, like even in 2008, I believe the total decline was like 15 to 20% in the total market.
Wow.
If you had invested in individual stocks, you might have lost everything.
Right.
But that same investment that went down 20% came right back up, because the total stock market is like an organism that wants to grow. And that's the best way. You're not going to have these huge spikes in gains, but you're not going to have these huge losses.
Sure.
So that's what I recommend, like especially first-time investors in the stock market, look at that as an option.
Okay.
Because if you go individual stocks, yes, your risk for winning is higher, but your risk for losing is a lot higher too.
Okay. Yeah, I'd also heard about the S&P 500, because it's like, if you invest in the top 500 companies, and you're always like investing in success.
How I have mine structured is I have that account, and then I have a portion in high index funds, which are the big companies, and then I have mid index funds, which are like middle-sized companies, and then I have low cap equity funds, which are like small companies. So it's another layer, but I think that's a conversation down the road that we could have.
Okay.
And
I'm definitely open to that.
But that's like, dude, this is what I want for you. Like, I want 2 years from now, you to be like, dude, I'm investing here. I'm diversifying my investments here.
That'd be great.
Working on this. Like, that's what I want for you. And I see it, man. I think you can do it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you see it.
I'm excited for you.
Just trying to get to the house.
The last thing is I want you to really think about this one. I want you to build the life that you want. Never stop knowing your numbers. So if we meet again in 6 months, I want you to know how much your budget is monthly. And I want you to have goals. the last thing I want to say is I believe, Eric, you are driven and you will succeed in life.
Thank you.
I'm thrilled to be helping you along your journey, and I want to connect again soon.
I
See where
appreciate
you're
it.
at.
Yeah. No, I feel good about this. Thank you.